Good morning and welcome finally to the 2022 Putting Patients First Conference. My name is Danielle Valley and I serve as the Scientific Director for the BC Support Unit, and I am just absolutely thrilled to be here with you this morning. As I sit in our Vancouver office, I recognize with gratitude that I'm joining you today as an uninvited visitor to these wonderful lands, the unceded and traditional territories of the Coast Salish people, the Musqueam, the Squamish, and the Tsleil-Waututh Nations. It has been such a pleasure since moving here from the United States 3 years ago to really learn more about Indigenous peoples and the connections we have both to this land and the importance of the work that we do as part of the BC Support Unit to elevate health and healthcare for all, and the learnings that we have from the people who have cared for these territories since time immemorial. In a moment, in the screen on your main screen, so if you have your the session in full screen, I would encourage you to shrink it to a smaller version. You'll see an invitation to acknowledge the territories and lands from which you're joining us this morning. As people answer the question, a word cloud will come forth and it'll share the various places that we're joining from, not just across this province, but across all of Canada and beyond. So please, let's take a moment. Feel free to shrink your video if you can. You'll see the question come up, enter it, hit the submit button, and we'll pause for a moment and acknowledge the territory. So hopefully you'll start seeing those that information coming up. And I'm going to continue with my greetings, but please, as you are able, feel free to enter where you're joining from, and that information will be shared broadly. Before I pass it over to our elders who will do a wonderful welcome to you all, I'm going to cover a few housekeeping things, but first I'm going to start by acknowledging the ability to be here today and cover such amazing content is really a function of the phenomenal planning committee who have helped guide the development of the program we have before us. And for those of you who haven't had a chance to review the program in full, please know it is embedded in the platform, as well as available via PDF under the Resources tab along the left side of the screen. This year's planning was done with great care, recognizing that this event not only supports our community, it also serves as a way to honor our dear friend and colleague, Pat Atherton, who passed away unexpectedly last summer. We will celebrate her legacy later today as we close. I'd like to acknowledge our funding partners who have made this event possible. This includes the Canadian Institutes for Health Research, as well as the BC Ministry of Health. And also for the social media folks in the crowd, if you are sharing content through social media today, we are using the hashtag PPF2022, and we will be tweeting from our @BC Support Unit account. So look forward to seeing us fill the Twitter feeds. I think Sterling indicated last night that every year we become a trending topic. We have a record-breaking registrants this year at just under 800 people. So I have no doubt we'll be able to get quite the following this year as well. If you are having any challenges with the conference platform today, please know that on the left-hand side of the screen, you'll see an icon that says tech support on the menu. There are folks available throughout the conference that can help troubleshoot. Fortunately, it's not me behind the curtain. It is very well-skilled and capable people who will be able to help you. And finally, I want to recognize that it is phenomenal that we're able to join virtually. I know many of us can't wait for hugs and being in person. But with that said, we're here together, and I think that's the most important thing. With that said, being on Zoom for 8+ hours can be fatiguing. So do please take time to stretch, to grab water, and take breaks from the screen as needed to take good care of yourself. Now, without further ado, it is my true honor and pleasure to welcome to the stage Elder Roberta Price, who has been the opener for our conference since it began. So thank you, Elder Roberta, for opening us this morning, and I'll pass it to you.
Kasiam, Danielle, for your warm welcome, and as taught to me by my beautiful elders in the Coast Salish Longhouse, the people who travel the furthest to our beautiful events are the first people to speak and open the floor, and as taught to me by some beautiful elders up in the Gitxsan territory they shared with us, and yes, and they're the first people to be served their food as well. So really honored to be here with my beautiful Métis sister, Elder Barb. So I pass my sacred vows over to you, Elder Barb, to share your warm welcome with everyone. Osiam, Osiam, thank you for listening to our teachings.
Thank you, Elder Roberta. It is my pleasure to be here amongst all of you today. As was said, my name is Barb Hume, and I'm the Métis Elder in the Elders in Residence program at First Peoples House at the University of Victoria. I'm originally from Selkirk, Manitoba, which is in Treaty 1 territory, and I'm Scottish on my father's side and Scottish Métis on my mom's side, with names such as Mackay, Smith, and Lizotte. I have been a grateful visitor on these lands for 30 years now, and I would like to acknowledge with respect the Lekwungen people on whose traditional territory my home stands, and the Songhees, Esquimalt, and Wasanic peoples whose historical relationship to these lands continue to this day. Each day, I recognize how blessed I am to live here and how gracious the people of these lands are. I graduated from nursing almost 55 years ago and retired 25 years ago, and could be described as a worker who appreciated new tools and new ways of interacting with patients as I went about my work as a nurse. What I didn't appreciate was the role of people like many of you who did health-related research and shared your knowledge to make my job better, and so I could be a better nurse, and I hope provide my patients with caring support and understanding. Thank you to all of those of the past, those of the present, and those of the future. There will always be someone who needs help or guidance or a hand that cares, and there will always be someone of any age reaching out to help. I ask the Creator for their care, support, and understanding as each of us carry on through this journey of life and discovery, and that along this journey, you hear the words and wisdom of the ancestors as they guide us along the way. I ask that you hear the words and the stories of those who influence us each and every day, be they the children of this world or those in their senior years or those of any age or disposition. We all need to feel respect, love, and compassion. I ask for blessings on all things of this land, sea, and air, as each thing has meaning and value. Each of us is on our own journey. And as you move along, I ask that you speak your truth. Be brave in what you're doing. Be honest and humble. Seek wisdom and share wisdom with respect and love. Together, we can make a difference. And thank you for being part of that team. All my relations, Marcy. And at this time, I will pass back to Elder Roberta. Thank you.
Osiam, thank you so much, Elder Barb. That was beautiful. Paichka, Siam, Siaya. Greetings and welcome, everyone. As Coast Salish matriarch and elder, I wish to give a very warm thank you to all my relatives on the Musqueam, the Squamish, and the Tsleil-Waututh for welcoming me to live in the unceded lands of my relatives, Musqueam, here in Richmond, going on 42 years now. As Coast Salish matriarch and elder, I wish to give each and every one a very warm welcome who live, work, and play, give and receive service, teach and learn on our unceded, ancestral, and occupied lands of my relatives, Musqueam, Squamish, Tsleil-Waututh. Always holding my hands up in honor and thanks to my beautiful mentor teaching elders, Elder Vince Stogan from Musqueam, Elder Bob George from Tsleil-Waututh, to always follow in their mentoring footsteps, to always share a blessing and a prayer whenever we come together. Thank you for listening, everyone. Haichka, Osiam. We give you many, many thanks, Creator, for bringing us all together in this very wide virtual circle in such a warm and respectful way. We ask, Creator, that you bless our minds, our hearts, our bodies, our spirits. So when we think our thoughts, they are good, positive, and respectful. When we speak our words, they are good, positive, and respectful. And we call upon you, Creator, to bless the people who prepare the food. Bless the food and drink we put in to nourish our bodies on our journeys to wellness and strength. We give you kind thanks each and every day, Creator, for the special blessings of protection you bring down upon all the beautiful people who are working so very hard in so many ways, in so many places during this pandemic, for all illnesses, for the safe delivery of our grandchildren and great-grandchildren, and especially for the ongoing opioid crisis. Continue to bless and protect them and their families, Creator. We ask for special blessings of protection, Creator, down upon all our relatives right across Turtle Island who have reopened wounds and are grieving all over again over the ongoing daily media releases. Bless and protect all of our relatives, Creator. And we ask for special blessings of protection, Creator, down upon all the people who have experienced the extreme weather conditions, the extreme heat and the wildfires, the extreme rain, wind, and floods that took away homelands, livelihoods, livestock, pets, and beloved family members. Bless all the families and Mother Earth in this recovery period. And we call upon you, Creator, to bring special blessings of protection down upon all the beautiful families over in the Ukraine. Bless and protect those families as well as all their beautiful relatives over here, all over Turtle Island that are mourning, and bless and protect all the families, Creator. We kindly and respectfully ask you, Creator, to wrap each and every one of us here and all of our loved ones in your warmest blanket of protection as we all continue this journey into 2022 and beyond. Help us each to keep safe in our travels, both near and far, Creator. And we always give you many, many thanks, Creator, as we ask you to bring all of your blessings down upon all the ones that are hurting, all the ones that are grieving, all the ones that are hungry, all the ones without homes, and especially, Creator, all the ones that are hurting, all the ones that are grieving. Paichka, Paichka Osiam, Osiam. Osiam, thank you so much, dear Sister Elder Barb, and I pass those sacred vows back over to you, Danielle. Osiam, Osiam.
Thank you, Elder Roberta and Elder Barb. That was such a phenomenal way to open and ground our conference. The comment, respect, love, and compassion, what phenomenal words to start us off with today. It's now my pleasure to pass over welcome to our President and CEO for Health Research BC, Bev Holmes. Bev, I would like to welcome you to the virtual stage.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Danielle. And thank you, Elder Roberta and Elder Barb, for those opening prayers, those good wishes. What a wonderful tone to set us off with at this virtual conference. I acknowledge, to begin with gratitude, that I'm speaking to you from the traditional, ancestral, and unceded territories of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh Nations. And it's an honor for me to welcome you to the 5th annual Putting Patients First Conference, which is huge. We had a record number of abstract submissions this year, and as Danielle said, nearly 800 people registered from across BC and other parts of Canada. And the conference theme, listening, learning, collaborating, changing, really captures where we are as an organization. Last October, the Michael Smith Foundation for Health Research and the BC Academic Health Network came together as one organization, Michael Smith Health Research BC, to strengthen the province's health research system. And I know synergy can be an overused word, but it's appropriate here. There was a synergy between our organizations that suggested our combined efforts would be much greater than our individual ones. And it's definitely turning out to be the case. Over the past 6 months, we've been listening to and learning from each other as we deepen an already strong relationship and as we collaborate to change the culture of health research, including to be more patient and person-centered, thanks to and guided by the work of the BC Support Unit. I was fortunate to be part of the inception of the unit more than 5 years ago, part of the team that proposed to the Canadian Institutes of Health Research a model that was tailored to BC's unique needs. Regional centers that could really thrive in local settings, and a provincial approach to some aspects, including capacity development and data infrastructure. And it was definitely a solid proposal, but it's really been the commitment and hard work since that time on the part of so many people that have led to the success of the BC Support Unit to date. And those accomplishments over the past 5 years have been talked about in many stories, and you are going to hear one very shortly from our keynote speaker, Fred Cameron. His contributions as a patient partner show us what's possible with a patient-oriented approach to health research. While the BC Support Unit has accomplished a great deal, there's still opportunity and need to do more. And you may have heard at our welcome event last night that we have a new director for the unit, Monica Mamut. And under Monica's leadership, the unit will continue to evolve to further advance patient-oriented research. So as we move through the next 2 days, I invite all of us to think about how we can incorporate listening, learning, collaborating, and changing into the conference experience, but also beyond. Another 5 years of enabling and maximizing patient-oriented research across the province. So again, welcome to all, and I believe I pass over to Kent now.
Can you hear me now, as they say? Thank you, Bev. It wouldn't be a virtual conference without a few technical hiccups. And like you, I'm looking forward to a great day full of lots of interesting stuff. And the benefit to me of getting to moderate the opening keynote, and the benefit of an opening keynote at all, especially for Fred, is that we have the benefit of a captive audience. Before all of our virtual attendees are beset by the embarrassment of riches that are concurrent sessions, we get to hear from Fred. Now, Danielle, did you have an introduction to make before we go to Fred? Not sure what is supposed to be happening next. There we go. Okay. Bear with us, and I'll let you introduce as you will, Danielle.
Yeah, thank you, Ken, and I appreciate you taking the charge for moderating this session. I do want to introduce Kent, who will be moderating the session with Fred, and to do that, I want to say that as we were planning this conference, one of the comments that came through from the group was, this is putting patients first. We should put patients first. And indeed we will, in terms of having a session that is both led by someone who has been a long part of our community, that brings both his lived and living experience, but also by Kent Lofsgaard, who's been as part of the support unit long before I was, has been a champion for patient and public engagement and the work that we do. So I'm going to quickly hand it over to Kent to moderate the session. But what I wanted to do was let folks know that on the left hand of your screen, so again, shrink down your camera or your video stream, you'll see a Q&A function with the word ask at the bottom. If you click on that, you're able to enter your name and then a question you might have either for Kent or Fred. I'll be monitoring in the back and passing those questions along. So please do ask questions of our presenters, because I'm sure they have much to share and much for us to learn from. So without further ado, Kent, I will pass it back to you.
And I will pass it from myself on to Fred. Fred, I don't know exactly what you had planned on how to proceed this morning. We didn't have a chance to connect in advance, so we're just kind of flying by the seat of our pants, if you will. I know you did originally have some slides, but I heard you say you decided to dispense with the slides in favor of your famous storytelling. So carry on at your leisure, sir.
Sure thing. Thanks so much, Ken. I guess I should just start by expressing my gratitude for the opportunity to be here. I've got butterflies in my stomach right now as I say this, but this conference and the BC Support Unit the opportunity to do some research projects with CSER and UVic has been absolutely a life-changing opportunity for myself. And I'm just thinking back right now to the first time I was at Putting Patients First. That was 5 years ago, I believe, 2017. I was so nervous before I got up and spoke at the podium that I had to step out a few times and go and meditate and pray in order to get the strength to carry forward. So to step up and be the keynote speaker at this year's conference, first off, it says something about the work that we've all done, being a part of the patient council with the BC Support Unit and with the research teams I've been involved with. But it also says a lot about my own personal growth. And none of that is possible without the community collaborations I've been a part of. So thank you all so much for being here. Thank you, Kent, for taking part in this and your willingness to improvise and help me out through this. Elder Roberta, I just think back to seeing you go up the first time I came to the conference. Such a wonderful speaker. And anyway, I'm humbled, and I don't know that I'll make it through this without crying once or twice. So I should just carry forward, I guess. Anyway, yes, I'm Fred Cameron. So just recently, I was appointed the programs director with the Solid Outreach Society. So we are based out of Victoria. Essentially, we're the Drug Users Union. We're a nonprofit society that was started in 2003. I guess our focal point is harm reduction, but also peer-based health education, as well as support services for drug users, and in particular, drug users who are a part of a street entrenched community, people who have been marginalized by the system, whether that's corrections, people having trouble getting access to healthcare, or the Ministry of Social Services. So we are essentially a membership-based group. There are about 2,000 of us that are part of the membership, but there are approximately 100 who are on our staff. So what we do, basically, we have the main two consumption services in Victoria are both on Pandora Avenue, which is the hub where the homeless population is based. So we have one person on staff in one of them, and then we run a new site, which is an inhalation site. So basically, we hire people directly from the street community to go and provide services, first off, that our staff uses, but it's provided entirely by peers. So we're partnered with the Health Authority and a few different organizations on that, the Lookout Society out of Vancouver. And then going beyond that, we have what we are referring to as the HOPS model. So we're running harm reduction services and support services in supportive housing units across Victoria. So we're currently running 4 of those, and then we have 2 outreach teams that are going out on a daily basis, trying to bring the services that we offer to the people in the supportive housing out to encampments and people across town. So when you add it all up, we have approximately 100 employees at this point in time. About 12 years ago, I believe, when our finance director started, he was the only employee for a number of years. So Solid has grown rapidly since, I believe, 2006 was when the overdose crisis was first recognized. I remember starting 2018, I believe I came to Solid, and we were, I think I was the 12th employee. I remember how happy everyone was when we had 15 paychecks. That was a big deal in our office. At this point in time, we have 50 people who are on our regular payroll, maybe a little bit higher, as well as 20, 25 resident responders. So in the supportive units, we have a different staff group that works overnight. So they have 24-hour care, essentially, with the people taking care of each other. Pardon me. So at our headquarters, one of the main challenges, being a drug user group, nobody ever wants us around. I hate to say it so bluntly, but we've been evicted from several different places in the past number of years. When I first joined Solid, it was a part of a research project, and I was representing another organization, and the headquarters was directly across the street from the police headquarters, in this tiny little office right next to a Chinese restaurant and a church. It was just so out of place. And we got moved down the street. We found a place in a pharmacy that was sympathetic to our efforts. But we kind of overwhelmed that place as well. The only way we could find a home, Solid had to come up with the money to buy the place. So in the past few months, no, I guess it was about almost 1 year now, a little bit less than a year, Solid Outreach purchased the corner of Cook and North Park in Victoria. So there are 3 buildings there, which we find, first off, it allows us to do what we need to do to help our membership, gives us a headquarters and a place where we can do research. But we're sort of forming a drug users resource center. So we have a number of different projects, and we're now leasing space to other service providers. So I guess that is a good segue for my role. So as I had said, I've recently been named the programs director. My portfolio essentially, that would be hiring, training, scheduling. I offer peer support and navigation. In other words, I help staff and membership to access services. Simple things that most people would take for granted, but getting access to healthcare. We advocate for our staff in the legal system. We've got housing supports within. That's one of the most proud moments of my career, actually, was getting one of our employees housed, and she was in absolute crisis right at the start of COVID. And she came to me, and I stepped up and I got her a place through BC Housing and then the Portland Hotel Society. But at that point in time, everything was so uncertain with COVID that I had to go and sit with a counselor to say, if this doesn't work out, I have to go to war with BC Housing. I have no idea what I'm doing here. So she talked me down, and that experience that gave me a taste for something. I just had never imagined anything like that, to be able to have that much impact over the lives of our entire community. And once that started, I started to investigate and received an education. I was going to school as a social work student, but at the end of those 5 years or 4 years of schooling, I would find myself starting again. This gave me the on-the-ground, hands-on education that everybody would hope to get. And we've now, in the past year, I would say probably 15 of our staff have moved from supportive housing into market rent housing. These are people that, like myself, we started out homeless a few years back. We have a staff that they now go out and offer the same help, but with, they can back up the story. If they offer advice or directives into different avenues of assistance, they've done it themselves. So, you know, we all learned it on the ground, and I don't know what more I can say on that one. Sorry, I got a little bit sidetracked. So I guess in addition to offering systems navigation and support, I also coordinate a number of sites. So I guess we have 4 housing sites, 2 safe injection sites, as well as our 2 outreach teams. And I coordinate that with people from the public health community, but more directly with the health authority. So we work directly with the housing providers as well, the city, bylaw, police, and other stakeholders. But we bring a voice of our community, you know, as members of it. We've all experienced various harms, and we see the shortcomings firsthand, and we bring that directly into the planning. Another thing I do is coordinate our research team. So at Solid, I think currently we're doing, well, there are 3 projects that stand out for me. So I guess the peer-to-peer project, the Reducing Stigma project, which many of you have heard about at this conference, as well as the drug checking project, which is quite well known. I'm also involved, I guess, in media relations and public events. Basically, I don't sleep. My phone never stops ringing. It's 24 hours a day. We hire people, first off, based on their history with drug use, as well as I guess being a part of a marginalized community. So there's never a moment's peace. I guess my catchphrase around our office is the stress level never changes. It's only the source that changes. And we're absolutely killing it. Solid as a group, our membership, and our community in general, we're struggling hugely at this point in time. COVID has been, you know, it's just brought a level of desperation that none of us saw coming. But we're starting right now to level things out. It's wonderful to see the sun coming out and to be able to say, you know, it feels like a metaphorical spring for us as well. It's still a little bit scary with the number of people who are dying and who are homeless on the streets. There's no group of people that's going to benefit more from getting back to normal and leaving COVID behind us. I know we're not there yet. I guess that gives a general description of what I do. But I'm going to stop there and just kind of point out, I've come a long way. You know, I can tell right now I'm incredibly nervous, and I'm speaking in a way that's incredibly choppy. And there was a time not long ago that I wouldn't be able to stand or to sit in front of a camera knowing that there are people watching on the other side. I grew up in Edmonton the majority of my life, and I struggled with addiction from a very young age. I guess that would have started probably the first time I ever did anything. You know, I was a child, but by the time I was about 15, I had started to lose control of that, and it was no longer me making a decision to go and use substances, and that continued to develop very rapidly for myself. But by the time I was about 16 or so, there was a clear difference between myself and my friends, and I would wake up in the morning thinking about how I was going to continue and how I was going to get a next fix. I guess I first recognized it as a problem in about 1997. So I was 17 years old at that point, and I first saw a counselor through my high school. My father had set it up, so it was clear that my problem had extended beyond just my own life and my own travels. I started going to AA in about 2001. things didn't go so well, and I ended up moving back to Edmonton after a brief time in Victoria. And I first started to seek help through the medical system, reaching out to ADAC in 2006. That was a wonderful opportunity. At the time, ADAC was a provincial network that was accessible to everybody in Alberta. They offered outpatient treatment centers. They also had a system set up, which is now what we're referring to as Safe Supply, but they offered a number of different services within the same building. So that was the first place I saw that offered harm reduction and abstinence-based. They did things on different floors, and they also had an 800 number that was accessible to everybody in the province. That's something that still has not been established here in BC. I do love the freedom that I get as a service provider, but universal addictions care, that's something that doesn't exist. If you're living in a rural setting, it is so incredibly hard to gain access to services. Anyway, I should continue there, sorry. My downward trend continued though. I did access care with ADAC. They put me into counseling. But if I fast forward over the next years, I had a lot of ups and downs. But when I was 35 years old, I was unemployed. I was squatting in a decrepit shack. I was using 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. I was suicidal. I was in psychosis. My health was incredibly poor. I weighed about 120 pounds. I was living in Alberta in December. That's not a good time to bottom out. And I got news that the house I was in was going to sell. So I kind of hit bottom in my own head. I was sitting in an empty room. Everything was in the pawn shop. And reality kind of set in. And I can remember sitting there. There was a broken window. As I said, December in Alberta, and there's a hole in the window that I had covered with newspaper stuck up with electrical tape. It was so cold. I was sitting wrapped in a blanket. And I had completely lost my grasp on reality. And I sat there staring at a phone for a number of hours, and I kept hitting the button to turn the light back on. The tears on my cheeks had dried. And there's a message there that I had written to my best friend, who was an outreach worker, who worked here in Victoria. And I sent a message at that point that said, "Today is the day that I admit that my life is unmanageable." I don't know what time that would have been. So I sat there for several hours longer waiting for a response. And it came first thing in the morning, I guess, when he woke up and he talked to his boss, a man named Gordon Harper, who ran the Umbrella Society, which is the main recovery group in Victoria. And he sent back that if I can get to Victoria in 7 days, they have a bed for me in a recovery facility. That's a big step, a huge ask, to be honest with you. But at that point, I threw everything I owned in a garbage dump, and I hitchhiked partway, and I got to the Okanagan, and I got to Victoria on a Greyhound bus. So I moved into a recovery facility at that point with no idea what to expect. I thought I would just stop doing drugs and I would be cured and everything was going to be awesome. I'd go back to work. I'd probably soon be in politics and have it all figured out, and I would get rich and tell the story, make a movie of it all. It didn't work that way. I got worse rather than better. And, you know, within 1 month, I had discovered that I could no longer work. I had to come up with something else. And it was so bad, I couldn't even fill out a welfare application. I had to get support from an addictions worker to help me to put my name and personal information down on a sheet of paper. That's tough to say out loud. But the support I found in that house, I moved into a home with 11 other grown men struggling with a similar story. We all had different levels of damage and alienation that had brought us there. But that common ground that I found in the place allowed me to engage for the first time ever. To look back, there was always a handout everywhere I went, but I wasn't ready to accept it. I don't know why. But something changed the moment I moved into that house. I started, at that point, I went to see a dentist for the first time in 18 years. I went and sought medical help. I went to get a checkup. I hadn't seen a doctor in somewhere in the area of 12 years since I had last seen a family physician. I didn't have identification. I didn't have access to any of these services that most people, you don't even think about it. I don't think about it at this point in time. But at that point, that's how desperate my situation had become. What's crazy about it is I didn't even know at the time. I had no clue how sick I was. I didn't know that I was alone. That I was the rarity in not being able to access these services. I kind of you assume that the world is like that for everybody, and I can't express how grateful I am to the Umbrella Society and to my roommates for the opportunities I had within that house, because it allowed me to start my life over again. Pardon me. So I guess that brings me to a good transition point here. After 1 year living in that house, I had an opportunity that came. We had every morning, we had a meditation where the group of us all got together and the counselor would come in and we would all speak about where we were, the challenges we were having. And the counselor at that point said there was an opportunity for 3 of us to go and sit in on a research meeting. It was offering $50. We didn't know what that meant, but we would be going to sit with a group of people from UVic, as well as the health authority and the BC support unit. I didn't know what that was at that point in time. But I needed $50. So I put a big smile on and I got dressed up. We had to get a ride down there. Most of us weren't capable of going outside on our own at that point, just due to anxiety and a number of issues that go along with it all. And they handed us some bus tickets and they dropped us off. So we sat down, and if I remember correctly, Karen Urbanowski, who's been a mentor and friend of mine since that point, kind of took the lead and told us about a potential project aimed at reducing stigma in the healthcare system. I didn't know what stigma was. I had to kind of just, I knew it was a bad thing, but I had to confirm what that definition was. I'm going to be honest, my definition in my head has changed greatly as I worked in this project and then moving on to becoming a service provider. And I can look back now and say that moment was a pivot point for me and our community. As I said a moment ago, I went there simply because I needed $50. But that meeting turned into what would become the Reducing Stigma in Primary Care project done by CSER. We were partnered with Royal Roads, Division of Family Practice. I can't remember what other stakeholders are involved, Umbrella, and Solid Outreach Society. I was a tradesman most of my life and a cook. But I struggled greatly with addiction. I had mental health issues that kept me from gaining any kind of traction and long-term success. This gave me an opportunity to turn those weaknesses that I just described into my greatest asset. Now I'm sitting in a room full of experts. I was so nervous at first that I could barely speak, and I had trouble making eye contact. But now I'm basically given a place to speak with the voice, and passion of someone trying to figure out why it was that I didn't go see a doctor for a decade, why it was that I was unable to accept help, what's wrong with the system. There are very few people who can understand the problems with the system the way that I do. And that gave me an opportunity to express my concerns first off, but to question the system. I don't know how how I lost my train there. I do apologize. But yeah, so I'm going to get back to the research project, and that project would go on for 3 years. We came to this conference for the first time in 2017, which was the first year. I got to go to conferences, I guess, across the country. We took this story to the CBC. We got a chance to go down to the Ministry of Health to bring forward our concerns and give them the results as well. On a personal note, though, my involvement with research led to me getting a part-time job with the Umbrella Society and directly as a support worker in the recovery house that gave me a second shot at life. Once I started with Umbrella, I worked for 1 year, and that led to me directly moving over to Solid Outreach at the end of my stay at that house. All of the gains I've made as an individual have come as a result of the networking I was able to do, first off in this project, but that led to me joining the BC Support Unit Patient Council. I can't express enough. Bernie and Karen, I hope that you guys are here today. That opportunity changed my life. I guess moving forward, we currently have a number of different projects on the go. I'm the research coordinator with Solid as well. We have a small team of people working on a number of different projects, but one of them is called P2P, and I think that one's been going on for about 4 or 5 years. I've been involved for 3 years. And basically that is trying to find the supports necessary to allow peer workers to go out and provide medical support. We've done educational videos, programming, training modules. We've helped to provide organizational supports, things such as, my ID card right here, for example. That was one of the shortcomings we identified in the first set of focus groups we did 4 years ago. That project helped us to get access to counseling. It helped us to get our peer navigation and peer support system that we have in place now that we take for granted at Solid. These are problems that were outlined and identified in the early days of the peer-to-peer project. Another project that's probably the most visible, there's a team called Substance, which is a team of chemists from UVic that operates in space that they lease from Solid, just to show how far we've grown from our little hole in the wall across the street from the police station. So this is as I said, a team of chemists with incredibly sophisticated equipment that allows people to have substances checked in as little as 20 minutes, but generally same day results. So they know what it is they're getting. And this has just huge ripple effects on our community. It basically helps to make the drug market much more like any market, and allows people to identify where the bad sources are, and for some people it gives them time to make sure that their substance is clean before they do it. I hope that this project continues for a number of years, and that we're able to offer it in different locations, because right now we're running around and picking up samples and bringing it in, getting it tested, bringing results back. It's not as efficient as it could be, but this is a game changer. So to be involved in a project like this from the very start has been absolutely wonderful for our organization and our membership, as well as everybody in the street community here in Victoria. We did another project over last summer that was partnered with Simon Fraser, and it was an oximeter project. So basically, we hooked participants up to an oximeter as they did some fentanyl, and we monitor their vitals in order to get an idea of what the effect of the drug is in real time. And then I guess my biggest project right now, and Solid's probably, is we're involved with the SAFER research team, which is SAFER is a Health Canada approved pilot project, essentially, that offers safe supply in a clinical environment. So as a member of the research team, we set out going out into encampments, as well as within our staff and within the supportive housing units. And we simply asked one question, and that was, safe supply would work for me if. And we tried to identify, what the clinic would look like, how services would be delivered. Some of the people are in encampments. We have such a broad array of needs that we're trying to meet from one office. SAFER also leases a space from us downstairs in one of our buildings. That's just been absolutely amazing to be a part of. This is something that we've been talking about for so long, and with the toxic drug supply that's taking out as many people as we're losing every year, we have the ability to step in. Clean drugs exist. There's a system already set up to prescribe, to deliver the medications, yet for some reason, we draw the line here, and we're seeing 2,000 people a year die in our province. We have the ability to end that toxic supply. And this is the pilot project, I think, that we're going to look back at as the game changer, as step one in allowing that to happen. Right now, I'm not going to say it's easy to start a project like this. It's very small. We're dealing with essentially people that started out in encampments, a difficult group of people to get in touch with. A lot don't have phones. But we're seeing the results just instantly. We have a number of people within my team. This allows people to get stability. It brings people into a location that gives them access to other healthcare providers. And without that grind and having to go out and buy God knows what, it's become Russian roulette at this point in time, because we don't know what's in the supply. And this allows a level of stability that I'm seeing within the people that I'm close with. They're sleeping better at night. They're coming to work in better health. which I guess frees up a lot of time. That when you're not involved in the day-to-day grind of street life, suddenly your time becomes your own. I guess, much like I was describing for myself earlier, I'm seeing the benefits. It's turning into financial, as I said, better health. People are accessing services that they used to just talk about and they did not have the ability to follow through with. This is all attached directly to their involvement with this project. So I hope that this continues to grow and that this project is just the beginning of something special and the first domino. So I guess that is a good place to invite you, Kent, to jump in. And I'm mumbling so much, maybe you can bring me back here.
I can tell it's still a very emotional story to you, Fred. Yeah. And something that I hope I'm going to find out is that we have a number of questions that have been submitted for you, but as is my exercised moderator's privilege, I like to kick off that process. And since you've just told such a personal story, I'm going to start with a bit of a personal question. Mm-hmm. And you've talked about how even before you were a member of the support units here, part of our what's now called the Patient Partner Ready Network, that you came to our first conference, and I've heard you talk before about how you were a journeyman painter once upon a time. And the thing that I wonder, especially based on what you've just described for us about your healing journey, is I wonder if the Fred Cameron of then in 2017 and before had any inkling of the vision of the realm of possibilities that have benefited from as both a beneficiary and a benefactor in the years since.
No, quite simply. So I remember when I first started there with the support unit, I was hoping to get back into school. I was hoping to get a job with Umbrella and move into abstinence-based recovery, helping people to get into detox and that kind of thing. And then I would move into policy and possibly government down the line. So just in a skeleton way, I guess yes is the answer. But the way things have happened, how much growth there's been, first off within the organization, but within our community as well. I didn't have any idea that I would get involved in harm reduction. I remember when I first started working with Solid, my fists were clenched and I had to phone a buddy of mine. Every muscle in my body was locked. It was so stressful for me going into that, which at that point in time, I didn't understand why. I told a counselor at that point, and I expressed it with a mystery attached to it. And he said, no, that is trauma response. I didn't know what trauma was. So through this process, I guess I had to find out who I was. It was, looking back, it wasn't so much this time around a matter of, refraining or removing the drugs from my life, education, getting my confidence back. I thought of all of these things as individual problems. And, I used to go to Toastmasters, or I would have trouble with anxiety, and I'd go out to social events and try to deal with this with exposure therapy. In the end, all of these things work together. Everything that I've done, it's just morphed into something so much bigger than I had ever imagined. And I've somehow managed to accomplish in 5 years, what I had thought would take my entire lifetime. I'm still not where I hope to be in the end. I guess my expectations change constantly. I hope that that's begun to touch on it. This is a tough question to answer for me, but my involvement with the research and with the BC support unit, absolutely game changing. And I've rewritten what the expectations are for myself, for our organization, and for the greater community in Victoria, changing our health outcomes, I guess. Thanks.
Well, that is the hope for all of us who do any kind of research. You know, I've often said, and you said similar, that you know, the point of all healthcare is patient benefit, and the point of all health research is to inform best practices patient care.
Mm-hmm.
And we know that here at the support unit, we're all about patient-oriented research. I have described patient-oriented research as a kind of team-based care, but patient-oriented research and team-based care don't work well unless everyone on the team has a clear understanding of exactly what it is that each other does.
Yeah.
And the patient is certainly at the center of that in what we do in both team-based care and in patient-oriented research. But I wonder if you could talk some more about what do you think is the most misunderstood thing, or maybe the biggest barrier to engagement with people that have struggled with substance use?
I guess through my own experience, I would say I never really considered myself to be a part of the system. You know, there's an expression tossed around in my current circle on a regular basis. I can affect change more from within the system than I can without it. I didn't have identification. I didn't have access to healthcare. These are the same problems that people on the 900 block of Pandora have. How do you get somebody to accept help when they're feeling like everybody in the world is against them? People tend to find comfort with their own, I guess, to a degree. It's an incredibly tightly knit and separate community on just the 900 block. But if we expand, drug use is not something that we can define as what we see as we're traveling to and from work. That's only the tip of the iceberg. So this problem is incredibly complex. And the vast majority of people are finding drugs and using after work when nobody else knows. So the solution to a problem that broad is going to be a continuum. It's not, you know, we're not going to come up with a framework that works for everybody. How do you provide programming that's that nimble and has the ability to adjust to everybody? I think that largely we're finding out that that is a non-medicalized model, and that will help bring people into the medical system. But allowing people to provide the services for themselves, even sometimes, but for each other, we have the ability to adapt on the fly. So here at Solid, we're not a union. We aren't a part of the health authority. You know, the health authority, God bless them, they fund us. They do their absolute best, but they're a slow-moving ship that takes 6 months to change direction. I have the ability to say, I'll be there in an hour. And that's what has allowed Solid to grow so much, is our ability to simply change course and help people with whatever's required. Since the start of COVID, I would say the community has taken notice of what Solid has done and our ability to adapt and change direction. but we do that while working directly with the community and being a part of. We do that as members of the community. We react to the problems in real time, and it's almost like an organism. You know, it's not a organization. It's not the right word. Hope that answers your question.
Oh, absolutely. And you just talked there about some of the systemic barriers and challenges you know, as you grow and working across levels of, you know, of the system. And one thing that I've just really been thinking about is what do you hope in an evolutionary way? Because you've already done so much, but I mean, talk a little bit about where do you hope to go?
I've got to be honest. If my goal is not to make myself obsolete, I'm not even hoping to succeed. So I'll have to adapt. You know, if I can solve the opioid crisis, I'm going to be hired by somebody else. So I'm not worried about that. But rather than, you know, wait behind people and tell them it's going to be okay and give them naloxone if they overdose, I want to eliminate the problems. You know, something as simple as safe supply. It doesn't sound simple because, you know, you talk to the doctors, they're going to have a totally different opinion than me. The police are going to have something different to say. But if we were to offer a safe supply, we're going to slowly eliminate the black market. If people have access to drugs at a reasonable cost, we're going to drop crime rates. People who aren't afraid of the law are going to engage with the healthcare system. All of these problems it's really one problem, largely stemming from criminalization. But I feel that's the biggest thing is over the next 5 years or so, with the trajectory we're seeing right now on a number of different fronts, I don't think that the supply is going to be toxic the way it is right now. Knock on wood, but I remain optimistic about it. We've made so much progress in the last couple of years, and we have momentum right now that we hadn't seen in the past. We had a lot of people and a lot of enthusiasm, but we've seen actual change in the past few years. So right now, we're not yet seeing the results, largely because of a global crisis that has crippled every aspect of our lives and our economy, the way we communicate, the way we eat. You know, every aspect of my day-to-day life has been affected, and this has been just multiplied for the people that are living separate from the rest of the system here. So yeah, I hope first off that we are able to, through a number of different initiatives, but decriminalization we're on the cusp of that right now. We're in discussion with Health Canada. That was another wonderful opportunity that I got as a result of my involvement in all of this. I was on the panel that outlined what decriminalization should look like for people in BC. But yeah, I really hope that we can get to a point, just to put it into perspective, it was seen as an overdose crisis when 100 and some people died in the early 90s. We're at 20 times that right now. Like the overdose epidemic is, it's become so big, but it just does not get the recognition. I don't understand why. I guess it's seen as being a largely homeless problem, but that's not the case. You know, I've lost dear friends, family members. I'd like to see a new generation grow up where that's, you know, that's not a thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We're coming down to our closing minutes of the session. It's amazing how fast time passes, but just as we close, I wanted to give you an opportunity as somebody who has been through the substance use healing journey that you have been on. If there is anyone that is hearing us or listening or watching us right now, or that might hear this recording or watch this recording in the future, and they are in a place similar to where you have been, what would you tell them to give them some hope?
I guess it's difficult to take direction, but what I would offer is simply reach out and start a conversation. It was incredibly hard to do that the first time, and it was incredibly hard to do that the 1000th time, which was hopefully the last time I had to reach out and start again. Expectations are kind of pushed from the professional community. We see it on TV. Our parents lectured us. You know, we all, everybody who's experienced addictions has gone through that. When somebody comes down to see me in crisis, you know, I do tell them I can help them get into recovery, but I also offer them a job. There are so many different options. It didn't have to get as bad as it did if I would have addressed things in a different sense. That could have happened when I was 23 years old. And, you know, I've turned my life around right now. The possibilities are absolutely endless. It seemed to me that I was a write-off. You know, I had lost my friends, my family. I couldn't keep a job. Everything that I wanted, I thought was taken away from me by someone else, and I got it all back. The right people all started to call. I can't express enough how grateful I am to be where I'm at today. So the sun will come up, and keep trying.
Amen. Well, Fred, I would say that your life is a testimony, and I am thankful for you and everything that you have brought here to our work at the support unit and onto the research landscape at large to better address the needs in mental health and substance use. And thank you so much for your candor and for sharing your story with us today.
Thanks, Ken. And thanks to everyone else for coming.
On that note, I'm going to send us back to Danielle, that I think is going to let us know what kind of breakout sessions. This is where we go into the embarrassment of riches of concurrent sessions. And if you're like me, who tends to suffer from too many choices and so little decisiveness, it's going to be a challenging time for you. But we have enriching content on every side for you to choose from.
That's right. But first, we have a 15-minute break where we get to do that self-care that we talked about, the getting water, the stretching a little bit, getting out to see some of that sunshine that's out. Before we do that, I want to say my own thanks both to you, Ken, and to Fred. Such an inspiring journey. And what you can't see is the back end of people sending their gratitude and just appreciation for you sharing your story, recognizing that it's both inspiring and humbling, and thrilled that you were able to really kick off the conference today. So sincere thanks for that. Kent is right, there is an embarrassment of riches, both following this break as well as throughout the next 2 days. The program is available online. You should be able to see it on the left-hand side of your view bar. If you click on that, it'll tell you what sessions and who the speakers are. So I invite you to go check that out and pick your next session. A couple of other points to note: the time zones that you're seeing in your program are reflective of the time zones where you're joining from. So it's 9:43 here. If you're on the East Coast, it's 12:43 there, so that should be reflected accordingly. Don't forget to help spread the word of what's happening here at Putting Patients First. If you're on social media, the hashtag is hashtag PPF2022. And again, my thanks for everyone joining, and I look forward to seeing folks throughout the virtual spaces these next couple of days. So we'll break for now and see you soon.
Thanks, everyone.